Hello, friends. Nayaswami Hriman here on a blustery, rainy day on Camano Island. It's about noontime on the Pacific coast, and this is Whispers from Eternity. We're going to talk about the dreamlike nature of life. So I'd like to start with this prayer demand, number 173. It's called, "Bless me that I may know that I am dreaming, even though my senses tell me I'm awake." Okay, this is a fun one. He writes, "As we rest and sleep, wake in the morning to our daily round of desperate seeming, but only half-conscious activity, then fall back to sleep again at night, so also do we pass fleetingly from birth to life to death again, waking ever and again in new bodies, dashing about our appointments and other commitments, delighting in them or groaning at their importunity, then finding ourselves forced to leave everything at death's next summons, dream after dream of ceaseless earthly struggles. Ah, on the sleigh of incarnations, we find ourselves sliding by hopes and disappointments, victories and failures, fulfillments and disillusionments. When the smooth snow of easy passage melts and the underlying ice of insecurity breaks, we find ourselves plunged into heaving seas, eddies of gay then desperate laughter, sargassos of cloying involvements, vast calms of indifference. Ah, all only dreams. When at last I awoke in thee, I discovered that I'd been dreaming all along. I'd only thought I was awake." Okay, isn't that fun? There's a beautiful song, Swami Kriyananda, the founder of Ananda and a direct disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda, he wrote many beautiful songs, but "Life is a Dream" is certainly one of them. Life is a dream, time like a stream, carries our burdens away. Never despair, joys everywhere, love can befriend you today. Okay, enough of my singing voice. Swami Kriyananda talked once about a dream he had. I'm sure we've all had the same kind of dream, but in his dream, he was flying, which dream analyses will tell you all about what it means to fly in your dreams, but never mind the meaning. He was flying in his dream, and he thought to himself in the dream, somewhat lucidly, I'd say, that, oh my, I'm flying. Flying isn't normal. But then he thought about it, reasoned it out, and came to the conclusion in his dream, lucidly speaking, that though a bit unusual, he was indeed flying. Well, suffice to say, he woke up, in this case immediately, and realized that it was only a dream. Here's the problem, though, with the idea that God is playing all the parts, that everything in creation, ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, evil and good, all these things are God's great dream of life. The problem with that is that, well, until you awake, like awaking from subconscious states of sleep, you don't know you're dreaming, you see. It's really very much like the movie The Matrix, which I confess I'm not sure I can explain it all, but it feels like it's very much like the movie The Matrix. And we are in a kind of matrix, a matrix of our own complicated karma individually, but then beyond that in the great matrix of the dream of God. Well, after all, as some have said, Swami said, Paramahansa Yogananda said, and as you've probably said, how could God make the creation without it being basically his own thought, a part at least of his own self? He didn't go to a lumber store. He didn't go out and pick up gases and make a black hole and a big bang. It was just him, her, it. Oh my God. So that's the issue with this teaching. In fact, the Vatican once condemned the teaching that life is a dream because saying it made young people irresponsible. Well, like Forrest Gump, my great philosopher friend once said, Forrest Gump, he said, "Stupid is as stupid does." And so if you think life is a dream, it's how you react and respond and behave according to that attitude that life is a dream that makes all the difference. If you respond to that idea, which is, after all, just an idea, it isn't a realization, it's just a thought. And if you respond irresponsibly, then, well, that says more about you than the dream, right? And so, what are we supposed to do with this idea that God is a dream? Well, find out for yourself. That's what we're supposed to do. So, how can we experience that life is a dream? How can we know and realize beyond just the mental construct of ideas and concepts that life is a dream? Well, sticking first with those mental concepts, in the Sankhya Darshana, the Sankhya philosophy of India, the rishis tell us that analyze the dream state, which is what I began with today. In other words, in the dream state, it seems so real, and we awake from that state and we realize that state was unreal. Makes you wonder then, doesn't it? So it's not proof, but it's an interesting opening. Yogananda encouraged people to practice the art of lucid dreaming, as in Swami Kriyananda's dream in which he participated, stepped back far enough from the dream to analyze it in the dream, incorrectly, I might add, but nonetheless. And so we can experience that. But truth be told, it is really pretty much, I don't want to say only through meditation, because near-death experiences have shown those who have had them the reality, the experience of being separate from the dream of this life, seeing that their true self, the reality that seemed far more real, okay, maybe it's a dream, but relatively speaking, what they experienced seemed far more intensely real than the dream state of their body and the people around them, this earthly world, in other words. So that's quite interesting testimony. And there's a wonderful footnote in the autobiography of a yogi, which if I had the foresight to find and read to you, you would find amazing, about Alfred Lord Tennyson, the great poet of Britain, who wrote in his diary that from a young age he would recite his name again and again, and then he would go into really a trance-like superconscious state in which he realized the dreamlike quality of the fabric of the five senses and of reason, emotion, and memory, meaning conscious and subconscious states. But in fact, the most scientific way to approach an experience of the dreamlike state of this conscious state is through meditation. No doubt about it. When you can bit by bit be still and know, as it says in the Old Testament, when you can bit by bit calm the reactive process until no more images come to your mind's eye, no more sensations, no more feelings, no more mental thoughts about the day, and you are perfectly still. That's not it, but it's the basis for it. It's the basis for transcending the physical body, the personality, the endless stream of consciousness and movement that is this world. Every atom in creation is ceaselessly moving. Only if you could induce absolute zero, which I don't think you can do yet anyway, can you make the creation be still. At the center point of every atom is the equivalent of a black hole, which is the essence of all things transcendent of time and space. Science is showing us an analogy to this transcendent state of the soul, which is pure, eternal, ever blissful, untainted by the karma of the ego being the soul misidentified with this matrix, with this reality, with this body. So life is a dream, but what can we do about that until we realize it? We can at least try to step back, try to be mindful, which is why the popularity of mindfulness, which is to say being aware of how we think and feel. Step back from our opinions. Try that. I remember in college when I had this sort of, I don't want to call it an awakening, but this sense that everything I held fast to as an opinion, of course, it was always about trivial things like beer or girls or something, but whatever, or politics, okay, that's even more trivial in my book. But every time I had an opinion about anything, I would discover that it wasn't much longer from when I grasped that opinion that it vanished. And I ended up with the opposite opinion. And so for me, and we each have our own little ways by which the fabric of the matrix, moves apart even just for an instant and we see through it. But for me, that was a very strong remembrance, as Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutras, a smriti, a recollection, piercing the veil, seeing through that fabric that veils from us the reality that's behind all seeming differences. It's a wonderful way to live. Now, some people would think, well, again, like the Pope perhaps some years ago did, that this would engender in us a sense of irresponsibility, a detachment from the consequences of our action. Well, it's possible. I won't deny that that's one way to respond to this. But the other way is to not take oneself and the world around us quite so seriously. Now, I want to take seriously the need for compassion and so forth, but what I mean is especially our own opinions and our own pains and sufferings and our own successes and pleasures is to step back. That's known as neti neti, not this, not that. I'm not that opinion, I'm not that opinion, I'm not this pain, I'm not this pleasure. And that is a form of what is known in the yoga tradition as jnana yoga. It's distancing self-identity, the mind from who I am. Okay, wonderful practice, but doesn't really satisfy the bhakti in one another. It's not a heart-satisfying feeling. It's easier, in fact, to focus our attention on love as an abstract but deep feeling, or on the guru, or on God in some form that we can feel love and devotion to. That too is a way to the transcendent state. Because as Patanjali says rather clinically, when that which we seek, that image we hold in our mind in meditation, like the image of God or the eyes of the guru, when we enter, or in a more abstract state, like the feeling of joy or love or peace, when we enter that state and become that state, knowing, knower, known as one, that too is but a stepping stone to the true transcendent state of omnipresence. These are very deep teachings, and I know it's not easy to make this practical. But as Yogananda said, memorize my poem Samadhi, which I have done years ago. I say it every day, and you'll get a feeling for the transcendent presence of the soul. The soul as Krishna, the soul as the indwelling Christ, who will lead us to freedom. Life is a dream, time like a stream, carries our burdens away. God bless you and enjoy this day. I'm glad the power didn't go out. All right. Ciao till tomorrow.